Let's talk about it. You're listening to Let's Talk About It, a digital forum that holistically addresses the issues that arise in everyday life and the current affairs that are prevalent throughout our nation and that affect our culture. Let's join host Ty Priest Hannah now for today's discussion. Let's talk about it.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About It. I am your host, Ty Priest Hannah, but of course, everybody, and I do mean everybody, calls me Ty. Thank you for allowing me your listening ears. Listen, joining me today on Let's Talk About It are some very special friends of mine. They really don't need any introduction. They have been on the podcast. They have been on various episodes with me time and time again. And so I'm not going to go through this long introduction. I'm just going to bring them on. Joining me today is one of my very good friends, the Queen Mother herself. She's an anthropologist. She's a prayer warrior, a praise and worship leader, an author. She wears so many different hats, bears so many different responsibilities. Joining me today is none other than Tempestt Hough. Tempestt, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing good. How are you?
I am doing well. I'm so glad to have you on this evening.
Glad to be in the number one more time.
Well, amen. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord for that. Ain't God good?
Yes, he is.
I know he is. You ought to give him praise right now.
Ooh, don't get me started on here.
Joining me as well on Let's Talk About It is a very good friend of mine. I haven't known this young man. Well, actually, I've known this young man for approximately 7 years. 7 years. I actually hired him to be my manager, and I trained him. He is like my son in the gospel, my son in optics. In optometry, very good friend of mine. We laugh and joke all the time. None other than my brother TJ, Tremaine Chandler. TJ, what's going on, man?
I'm good, man. Very pleased to be here.
He's so deep.
Man, I am grateful. To have you on. Grateful to have you on, guys. So before we go any further into our conversation, we haven't had the opportunity to sit down and talk in a good little while. We've all had some things going on. So before we go any further, what's been going on with you guys?
Well, for me, staying busy with work. On the side from that, I opened up my new business, Auntie Shea Butter and things. So I am now selling whipped shea butter, soaps. I also have lip balm and lotion, which is made from the whipped shea butter. So I sell all natural products now. So that's been keeping me busy, on top of also, still being in school to obtain my master's. And other than that, that's it. Working in the yard, it's getting a little warm outside. So I like to set flowers out here and there and trying to keep up with everybody else around me.
Oh, you getting into gardening now?
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Wonderful. Chandler, what's been going on with you, man?
Well, since the last time I think we podcast, of course, I've been promoted to a pod manager, and that has taken all of my time. So I have 5 stores, every store in Columbia, Aiken, and Augusta. And again, I'm now placing some of my influence back into Florence. So, it's literally been 7 days. Every week.
Wow.
Getting it.
Wow. So you working 7 days a week, 36 hours a day?
Not 36 hours a day. There's only 24 hours in a day.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's all right. But that's all I have to say right now, Dr. Hannah.
Well, listen, this episode, of course, is a very special episode. One of the reasons what makes this episode so special is because of the simple fact that not only are we able to come back together again, but this is actually our first opportunity doing Facebook Live. I'm actually going Facebook Live on my own personal Facebook page, and so we actually have some viewers even now. We have about 8. I think Andiria said hey to you, TJ. She also called my name. I guess she's glad to see you on Facebook Live, considering the fact that you don't have much social media anyway. But nevertheless, Andiria says hey. We're going to jump right into the conversation. Our conversation today is not our normal conversation, but it's a conversation that is needed nonetheless. Of course, many of you know that we've been in this pandemic now for 2 years and some change. And we've seen this pandemic affects every facet of our lives. And one of the areas that has definitely been affected the most in particular is the job market. And with that, prior to the pandemic, for a little while, job security was somewhat of a concern. But since this pandemic has hit the United States, the job security now has become such a major concern because of the simple fact that a lot of businesses have had to downsize, which have resulted in people being laid off. And then not only that, some have even shut down, which left a lot of Americans, a lot of citizens, a lot of employees having to look for work. But not only has job security been in question, on the opposite end of the spectrum, there is another problem that is yet presenting itself. And that problem is employee loyalty, employee commitment. Some of the jobs look at it as retention rate or turnover. Since this pandemic has hit America, one of the things that it has set into motion is a pandemic era phenomenon known as the Great Resignation. And those of you who are watching us by means of the live stream, you can certainly Google it. It is Googleable, if I can coin that phrase. It is called the Great Resignation. And the Great Resignation is simply this, that there are a number of people, whether they are unemployed, but generally employed, job seekers who may have been on a job for a year or less, and they are currently seeking employment elsewhere. They are currently seeking another position elsewhere. So my question is, we can talk about job security all day, but it seems to me, and let me go ahead and say this, that on CNBC.com, and this was the article that I read that was dated back in March 22nd of this year, it said that 44% of employees are job seekers. Employees, these are people who are employed. They already have a job, and yet they are deemed as job seekers. So why do you think, Tempestt, TJ, why do you guys think that there's not much employee loyalty or commitment anymore?
I would go and say maybe because of the pay. For instance, I'm in law enforcement. Mm-hmm. So we have somewhat of a turnover issue, but may not necessarily be because of the pandemic. But it's just because law enforcement is underpaid altogether. Specifically, like with me having been in investigations, you do so much and it requires so much of your time, so much of your focus, to where you don't even really have a life with your family. And then you get paid this particular amount. So then you have some individuals who may feel as though, okay, this salary or this hourly rate, like for instance, with local departments, it's not enough. Mm-hmm. It's not enough. And then especially with the day and time that we're currently in, where you have prices, gas prices, prices for food, and really everything has increased, and you're trying to sustain your life, your way of living, much less if you actually have a family that you have to take care of, and you just may not be satisfied with whatever your pay is. So then you go and you seek other jobs that may give you more financial stability per se, something that's going to bring in more income, or even like as myself, opening my own business on the other side just to have that additional income coming in. So I do believe for some, when you are already in a job, you leave maybe and you want to find something else. One reason is for pay. I would say another reason could be based upon maybe supervisors. Because given the day and time that we are in as well now, you may have had a lot of good employees that have retired or they've left. So it leaves you to pull other people who may not be as experienced in that particular area. And I hate to say not necessarily capable of doing the job, because I don't really want to say that, but they may be in that position, and you may have the employees who may feel as though, okay, I need to be elsewhere because things aren't going right with having this supervisor, or whatever the case may be, or this supervisor may not know enough, or I may feel as though I know more than this supervisor and I don't want to listen. Because the truth be told, just because you're a supervisor, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily fit to be a supervisor. You can be on the lower end, but doesn't mean that you're necessarily fit to be here leading somebody else. And you could be a great worker. So I do believe that there are times when individuals leave a job also just simply based upon, their supervisors.
That's true. That's very good. Very good. Very good. Money, supervisors. Chandler, what's your perspective?
Well, I mean, I have to agree with Tempestt in fact that Branch did a survey of 3,000 workers, hourly workers. And in the survey, over 68% of the employees survey agreed that they earned more money from unemployment in combination with stimulus checks than they were making hourly within a margin of time of weeks to some of them months. So that in itself was a big promoter. Why would I go to work and labor when I can get more just staying home? So I think that's one of the biggest factors that has really played into it. And again, to Tempest's point again, secondly, culture. You have bad managers and misrepresentation of companies because their mantra is that we value our employees, or our employees is what makes our company great. But reality of it is that we still want to pay them low. We now, because of shortage, we want them to perform the task of not just one person, but sometimes 2 and 3 people.
Right.
People are ultimately already dealing with burdens of childcare. They already are dealing with the burden of COVID and what may or what may not occur. You have so many factors. And then one of the most important factors that COVID took a lot of people. A lot of people experienced death in a manner that they have never had to experience or even thought of. So you still have grief. That's why therapists have shot up. If you look at the statistics on how many people now have requested therapy, the percentage is astronomical. So along with all of these factors, people are not going to be loyal to a job when a job is not loyal to people.
That is true. That is true.
Right.
That is true.
Right.
I would definitely have to agree with you guys. All of those perspectives are certainly valid. People pay is a huge factor when it comes to a job, because of the simple fact that at one point, a lot of companies at one point were hiring people to do more work for less pay. Well, the tables have kind of turned now because people are willing to go to a job that's going to be, they're willing to work a job where they can go to the highest bidder. You know, they're going to go to the highest bidder. Whoever is going to pay me more, I don't care if I like the position or not. I don't care if I can do the job or not. I'll learn how to do it just as long as that pay is going to be comfortable for me. And then not only that, you do have to consider flexibility. When you're talking about work-life balance, and TJ, you and I, we both know that work-life balance can be challenged, especially being managers. You know, I was a manager for 8 years, and there would be times that I would end up have to bring work home and spend, you know, countless hours, you know, trying to do work and still be a full-time pastor. And a lot of times that became challenging. That became challenging as well, you know, dealing with family issues and things of that nature. So that work-life balance, that flexibility, that's what people are looking for. People are looking for having that level of flexibility. But then at the same time, people are also looking for good leadership. Good leadership. If in my 8 years of managing, I may not have been the perfect manager or the perfect leader. But I would like to think that with those that I've worked with, that I've done pretty good in being understanding of their issues and things of that nature. Being understanding of their issues, and not only that, just, you know, celebrated them whenever they did something well, and not necessarily trying to chastise them or reprimand them whenever they, you know, weren't doing their best, but taking those moments and helping them to learn from their mistakes and still make them feel good about it. You know, and granted, I get it. There's pressure on leaders within a company, and so they're going to place that same pressure on somebody else. They're going to place that same pressure on the employees, but still yet, as managers, that's what we are paid to have. We're paid to manage that pressure. That doesn't necessarily mean that we have to place it on those who are under our leadership. And so therefore, I agree. Having good management is certainly key. Is certainly key. Building that good work environment, that culture. Tempestt, you know for a fact that me and TJ, we manage one of the optical stores here in Florence, and to this very day, to this very day, anybody who has worked with us, one of the things that they can always say, no, we may not have always been perfect, but like I said, you know, we will understand it. There has never been a day or anybody who has worked with us who has not enjoyed being under our leadership. I mean,
I second that.
Yeah, really, really and truly. Nobody has ever worked with me, or I've never hired anybody who did not enjoy being under our leadership. You know, we always made work fun, working in a high volume, high stress environment. You know, and especially when you know you're going to be there, that's where you're spending most of your time. You know, you pretty much, you know, want to make the environment as comfortable as possible. And so developing a good work environment is certainly key. I think, and believe it or not, Chandler, Tempestt, I think if you really have a good work environment and the leadership is good, people will probably dismiss the idea of better pay for good leadership and in a good work environment.
You actually just took the words out of my mouth, because I was going to say that when you have good people around you, when you have leaders that are understanding, leaders that are willing to work with you, you'll forget about the pay. You know I probably would, because I would rather be somewhere where I'm happy. Right. I have understanding. understanding leaders. I have people that don't mind working with me if something happened. It's not to where, oh God, it's the end of the world.
Right.
I can deal with that and still work in this particular environment, even though the pay may not be where I want it to be, because then I could go somewhere where the pay is more and then it's stressful. I don't have leaders that are understanding. I have the leaders that are nitpicky or, that like to micromanage, whatever the case may be. But when you have good leaders, I think that really makes a difference. And when you wake up in the morning, you got to go somewhere where you love your job and you're happy. If you're happy and you love what you're doing, you're able to produce more. You can be productive in that environment if you are happy where you are.
Right.
And you making sure your people are taking care of you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
That
I think all of us wanted to jump on this topic when you got onto it, Priest.
Yeah.
Because everything that both of you are saying are exactly correct. I think maybe there's one thing that we can even add in addition to this, which is growth. Because when you are a part of an organization, a church, a company that is growing, and you can honestly look back 3, 6, 9, or 12 months and say, wow, I have grown. I've been challenged. I have been developed. I now see, and I'm more empowered. I see myself differently. When I'm recruiting, I never approach pay. Pay never really comes up in those first conversations because, again, there has been a shift in this particular job market because all before companies always had more so the leeway. Companies more so were the drivers, but now employees have more pull. Yeah. Because at this point now, if you don't want to pay me, then I won't even give you a 2-week notice. I'll leave right now.
right.
No kind of etiquette.
No class, no etiquette, anything. Because again, it goes back. And again, relationship equates to conversation. So if you don't have that development conversation with me, if you don't have that growth conversation with me, then my loyalty to you is really invalid. So I will leave your job today because I know there's 20 people there who are hiring. I'll be there tomorrow.
Right.
Matter of fact, they'll start you today without you completing your I-9.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, they will. They will.
So going back to what you guys were saying is that, yes, environment, culture, development, that is so key. And that's why I have been so successful in recruiting people in our region. I am now considered to be the recruiting king because the approach isn't pay, is the address. My motivation is that there's somebody not happy where they're at. And what do people want? People want to be valued.
Yeah.
They want to hear a thank you.
Yeah.
The power of a cup of Starbucks coffee. Yeah. Yes, it may cost $5.06. But that $5.06 will get you to get them to come in early. They will produce, they will stay later. You don't have to ask much because they will be loyal to you because you simply purchase them a cup of coffee. I was thinking about you.
Oh yeah. Right. And you know that to be true from your own personal experience. And I mean, even I have. I mean, how many times have we offered to buy lunch and not even just buy lunch, but God knows all of the employee outings that we paid for or you paid for out of your own pocket, just to express to the employees, listen, I value you. I appreciate you. You don't have to get up and come here every day. You don't have to come in on your days off, but I want to let you know that, hey, I appreciate you. I appreciate the work that you put in. I appreciate you giving your time and your talent and all of your skills. When you value people, people will in turn be committed. They will stay loyal to you.
That's right.
Oh yeah, I certainly agree with that. I think that was one of the reasons why what made our end of the year party last year. That's what made it so off the chain, I guess, because we did something so upscale to show our associates, listen, it was not easy. We set a goal. We presented you all with a goal of $2.5 million. And even though, yeah, we didn't reach it entirely, we were so close, so close. We were so close. Oh my God, we were so close. But
Yes.
but we still let them know that, listen, we appreciate you. We appreciate you. You know, the $8,000+ that was committed just from the management team alone to make that event happen, that was showing our employees. And I'm not saying any of this. Let me make this clear to you know, just to be be showing how grand we are, but I'm just boasting or bragging, but I'm just giving an example that if you value people, if you show them that they are appreciated, they will in turn value you. They will appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. You'll be amazed. Like TJ said, a cup of Starbucks coffee or buying lunch from Chick-fil-A or wherever they want, or anything of that nature, just to prove like, hey, we need you. We need you. We need you. Yeah. And I believe when you build that type of culture in a business, when you build that type of culture in a company, you don't have to worry about your employees going to the next highest bidder.
Right.
Because what they have where they're at is so valuable. They don't want to compromise that. They wouldn't want to compromise. Right. Why would I want to compromise anytime I call out and tell my manager that, hey, the reason why I can't come is because my daughter is sick, or my son is sick, or, my son has a game, or something's going on with my child. And even though, this is probably like the 10th or 20th offense, and they still are understanding, it may get on their nerves that I have to keep calling out so much, but still yet, they haven't written me up. And you think, and even though, going from $17 an hour to working with a company where you can get $22 an hour, that may seem good at the moment, but you got to think about what you're giving up on the back end. You're giving up so much more on the back end.
Right.
Yeah, you're giving up so much more. One television show that I watched back in the day, and I wish, to a certain degree, since we're talking about employee loyalty and all of that stuff, I wish to a certain degree that they would bring this show back, and they probably have. I don't know. But one show they used to air on television was called Undercover Boss. And I loved Undercover Boss. It was when you would have the CEOs of various companies go into their various sectors, or go into various sectors of the business, and they would disguise themselves as a new hire just to get a feel for what employees were going through on a day-to-day basis. And I love that show because it gave, in many instances, it gave the CEOs firsthand experience as to what our associates are really going through, what they are having to deal with. The CEOs, they're not working in the trenches, like many of the employees. They're sitting around making decisions concerning the business, whether or not they're going to sell or they're going to keep the stock in the company or things of that nature. But these on Undercover Boss, these CEOs went into the trenches of their business and worked with the lower level employees just to get an idea of what life was like, what business was like with them. And when some of them saw what some of their employees had to endure, not just at work, but also at home. Some of these employees coming in working 12 hours, then having to go back home and deal with a sick family member, or, taking care of not just their child, but having to deal with other children in the neighborhood. and things of that nature. Like that really did something to them, because they're like, wait a minute, you're working 12, or some of them were even, I remember one guy worked for a company. He was a cancer patient, but his cancer was somewhat going into remission, but he was still having to take chemo and radiation therapy, but he was still going to work. He was still going to work. And when the CEO of the business saw that, that man was touched. He was touched. He could not believe that you're getting up every morning when you should be, home trying to recuperate, trying to rest. You're taking radiation or chemo and you're still coming to work every day.
Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, they did some things for him to show him that they appreciate, but still, when you appreciate, when you value those you work with or those who are under you, you will in turn get their commitment. You will in turn get their loyalty.
That's right.
You will in turn get their loyalty. Well, Tempestt, TJ, this is our time. Of course, we've had quite a few views on our Facebook Live today. And I want to thank all of those who have been watching our live. I want to thank you so much for joining us. Please do us a favor, and please subscribe to this podcast. Let's Talk About It with Ty Hanner. You can subscribe through all social media outlets, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, I'm on Spotify, anywhere, iHeartRadio, Pandora, anywhere you receive podcasts, you can certainly subscribe and share this podcast with at least 2 or 3 friends. And of course, if you like what you hear or you have a particular topic that you like to discuss, you already know what to do. Just simply send us an email at ltaipodcast29501@gmail.com, or simply just shoot us a text message at area code 843-799-7619. And of course, you already know we want to hear from you. Well, I'm Ty Priest Hanner. This is Tempestt Hough and my main man, TJ Tremaine Chandler. And we are signing out.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
You've been listening to Let's Talk About It.
Let's talk about it.